Hello there, Tracee with Finding Your Freestyle, and I'm here to talk to you about how to get started. I just did a video on what is freestyle, and I highly recommend that you watch that before you start this video, but if you're here and you're ready to roll, let's get started. Now there are dozens and dozens of introductory freestyle exercises for the pole, for dancing, for any kind of medium, writing, singing. I think the best way to get started with freestyle is actually to get out of the dance room and go out and take a walk. Take a walk with no plans, nowhere to be, nothing to do, but to follow your intuition. And that's what I'm actually going to suggest today. Let's begin by talking about some qualities that are really important for freestyle. The first one is allowing. You can also think about giving yourself permission. And a lot of times we don't give ourselves permission to play, explore, to move without being told what to do. And so one of the most important things that you can do is just allow yourself that process. And in doing so, you're letting go of control and you're opening to more trust. And you let yourself follow the directions of your own desires, your own impulses. And this is quite difficult for us, especially with how we've been raised and some of our cultural conditioning. And that's not only allowing yourself to do something, but it's also allowing influence, allowing yourself to perceive new things. The next quality is intuition. I could probably talk all day about intuition because I think it is so vital for life and for movement, but if we're creating in the moment, we have to follow these impulses that are quicker and faster than the rational mind, so that we can have a sense of knowing what to do next. So intuition is something that we can absolutely work like a muscle. It can get stronger, it can get sharper, and it can become a really strong voice for how we create. The next quality is awareness. And now this awareness ties into mindfulness. It ties into being able to witness yourself. It ties into the idea of being more conscious. Self-awareness is something that we obviously know is very, very important for us to see ourselves, see how we're behaving, and see how our belief systems actually inform how we see the world and how we inhabit the world. But awareness is really also vital for freestyle because it alludes to your ability to create in that moment and also be aware of what and how you're doing it. So your ability to observe yourself. If we're able to cultivate more self-awareness, we're actually able to become our own teacher. And this is where we can make huge strides in the directions that we want to go. This ability to self-reflect, this ability to observe ourselves and be conscious with how we're moving or creating, what we're doing, and what we should be doing. The next quality is intention. And this is kind of like your purpose, your why, your how, your reason for doing something. It can feel like a commitment that you make without knowing what the outcome is going to be. This is obviously really important, but because this defines what something looks like and feels like. But what's really important about intentions is it doesn't allude to expectations and controlled outcomes. So if I intend to love someone, I'm not intending that so that I can get this, right? So intentions can feel like a commitment. And we make them all the time, and we can make them in the moment while we're moving, or we can set them very consciously before we move. I like to set intentions with my own practice every day, with the next dance that I'm going to do, or in the classroom, making sure that we're all staying in touch with what are we actually committed to and how are we going to focus. The last quality is going to be curiosity and play. And I love curiosity because curiosity is the space where we really set down the polarity of right and wrong. You want to think back to when you were a kid and you were playing pretend. You probably can't think of a moment where you were self-evaluating how good or bad you were doing something. it just was. You were in the energy of play. You were staying curious and allowing yourself to invent and imagine, and allowing your friend to invent and imagine. And so curiosity is something that we have a instant connection to as children, but we actually numb and suppress and reject and deny curiosity later on in life because of just different systems, our education system, our work systems. So if we can cultivate more curiosity in our movement, it breathes in so much, and really allows us to, take risks and to make peace with our weaknesses and our strengths. Because, we're letting ourselves make mistakes and realizing that it's all a part of the process, it's all a part of the fun. And that can make everything more enjoyable. And in that energy, in that vibe of curiosity, we're actually way more open. You're never going to feel curious and be constricted. So curiosity is an opening. And I probably think this is one of the most important things, because a big resistance marker is if a student comes into class and has a lot of trouble creating freestyle movement. Curiosity is a pretty stagnant energy in them for the most part. Because if they were curious, I think it opens up possibility, potential, and it puts down the walls of expectation. And I think that there's so much freedom in that. And if we're trying to freestyle and feel a sense of freedom and spontaneity, it's going to be really, really important that we stay curious so that we stay open to the magic of that process. Here's my suggestion on how to get started. I'm not going to ask you to hop on the pole. I'm actually going to ask you to take a walk. Put on an outfit that feels good, put on footwear that feels good, be intentional about making that choice of what you're gonna wear, and be warm if it's cold outside, and then leave your house. Don't bring your phone with you. Obviously you need to bring your keys. Don't bring your phone with you. Don't bring any distractions unless it's something you enjoy, like a crystal. And have no plans about where you're gonna go and what you're gonna look at and how long the walk is gonna take and who you're gonna run into, letting all of that go. So you step outside your house, you're gonna take a couple deep breaths before you do anything. Just gonna breathe right at your doorstep. Take in a deep breath, exhale, deep breath, exhale, deep breath, exhale. And then ask yourself, what do I wanna do? Where do I wanna go? And here's the key, you're gonna honor every intuitive impulse you have, no matter how silly, insignificant, or weird it seems to you. So hopefully as you've taken those deep breaths and you've allowed yourself to do whatever you want and take as long as you want, you're gonna find something to focus on. Either a direction is gonna catch your eye, a color, a texture, something, a sound. You're going to open up to your senses, and you're just going to start to follow your curiosity. If you see a pathway and you want to go down that pathway, go down that pathway. If you find an intuitive impulse that you don't want to go down that pathway, you turn right, you turn left. You can walk in circles, you can walk backwards, you can go in a straight line for 20 minutes without stopping. You can stop moving and look up, look down. You can take in anything that you find interesting. And this is what you're gonna do for as long as you wanna do it. So if you only have 5 minutes, great. But it's really, really important that you don't set any limitations on this exploration. You're gonna orient yourself to the space. Hopefully you're going to find a way to join with it, find a way to appreciate it. Even if it means looking down at a small patch of grass, or hearing the sound of wind, or watching a dog walk down the street, or watching two people interact, just staying in this very curious, open, observational energy. You're gonna take this walk as long as you want, and when you feel it's done, start to notice what it feels like to find a conclusion. When you feel it, you've had your conclusion, and then come back to your house. Once you're back at your house, this is where we open up self-reflection. This is a very, very important part of freestyle. I want you to ask yourself, how did I resist this experience? What blocked me from having this experience? And you may find that it's control, time constraints, stress, judgment. Comparison's not going to be really a part of this because you're not going to be walking with someone, but comparison does come up as a resistance marker. But I want you to notice, how did I resist this experience, this created experience? Then I want you to notice, how did I focus? What drew me the most? What did I notice most strongly? Was it a part of my senses, like sound or sight? Specifically, if it was sight, was it color? Was it motion? The last thing I'm going to ask you is, what were you aware of within yourself? So, thoughts, emotions, breathing, physical sensations, your gait, your walk, your posture, how your arms swung. Were you aware of any patterns, sensations, impulses within you, right? Thoughts that you had. Maybe it triggered a memory. Maybe you had a feeling. Maybe all of a sudden you got really grateful or felt really bored, right? So really, really give yourself permission to not judge this experience and notice how you resisted the experience. Notice what you noticed around you and notice what you noticed inside of you. All right. Feel free to take notes. Writing things down can be really, really important as you begin any process because thoughts can be a little too up in the air and written words are so formed. You can see it in the process of writing. It can feel a little bit more creative. And so as we're trying to really take ownership of our explorations, writing down can make the whole process be a little bit more important and help us gain a little bit more insight. So now we're gonna bring in your movement, and whether that's pole dancing, floor work, or something else. You're gonna look at your sheet if you've written things down, or you're gonna go into your own self-reflective process and pull out the thing that was most interesting to you. The thing that was most interesting to you. Here's a couple of examples. Maybe you were really aware of your walk or your posture. Maybe your clothing felt really good against your skin, and that was the most interesting impression that you got. Maybe it was a leaf that you watched move. It's fall, so of course I'm going to think leaves. You watched a leaf fall to the ground. Maybe it was a sense of playfulness or lightness. I don't want to control this process for you. I want you to really pull out the most specific impression that was the most interesting to you. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to pick one. Let's say I took a walk. And the most interesting thing that I experienced or did or noticed was changing direction whenever I felt like it. So if I take a walk normally, if I'm going to work, I'm not going to deviate from that path because I have to get somewhere. But maybe on this walk that was supposed to just be an exploration, I let myself turn all the time whenever I felt like it. And it really took me away from any end point. I went right, I went left, I went in a circle. And maybe just the idea of giving myself permission to change direction was the most interesting thing that happened. So what I'm going to do, warm up my body, pick my playlist, whatever it is to prepare my space. I'm going to go to the pole. And I'm going to keep my movement basic, keep my movement simple. Maybe it's just walking, some dance vocabulary, spins, anything at all. For this case, walking is a great example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk around the pole and I'm going to explore what I found interesting, which was changing directions. So I'm going to walk around the pole, I'm going to change my direction. And I'm going to change my direction again. I'm going to walk around the pole and I'm going to change my direction again. And what it's going to do is really break up a moving pattern. And it's pulled from what I actually found curious about the day. So it's very present. Now, I can turn that into several rounds of experience. I can do it over and over again. I can do it and change songs. There's lots of ways to progress an idea. But for the sake of this, we can keep it simple. You just take something from an outer exploration, bring it to the dance room, explore it around your apparatus of choice, and see how it felt. If you didn't like the example of taking a walk, you can do the same thing with paper and a pen, drawing lines, or drawing sketches. Without control, without having an expectation or outcome in mind. You can also sit down and have a conversation. You can have a conversation with a friend. And of course, because you're gonna have someone with you, you really want to, as much as you can, observe that experience. There are lots of different explorations that we can play with that take us out of our modality so that we can just more sharply observe ourselves, and then we can bring it back to the pole, or we can bring it back to our dance room. We can bring it back to our experience in the classroom. When we get out of the modality that we really get stuck in creatively, and we go take a walk, or we go draw a picture that doesn't have to be good, or we go have a flowing conversation with no plan, we really cultivate these qualities that make us better freestylers. Allowing and permission, intuition, curiosity and play, awareness and focus, intention. And all these things can help us feel more free, feel more empowered, feel more embodied, and help us really cultivate our own creative identity, which I think is the most freeing thing of all, is to really feel like we know why we create something and how we create something. So this is how I would suggest you get started with freestyle, just the topic of freestyle, and how you can just start to bring that into the movement that you enjoy. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for your attention, and look out for more videos in the future. Lots of love and freestyle vibes. Bye-bye.